Hey guys, it's Ian here with HobbiesofaMan once again, and today it's time for our check-in video. I'm a few days late to when I usually post it, but that's just because I was traveling and I didn't have time to record it. Plus also, I was trying to wait a little bit so I could have read more manga, more stuff, so that I could talk about more things. But, well, to be honest with you, I haven't really had, like, that great of a time reading this month. Not because I have a slump or anything, just like I've been doing other things, and mostly that's watching television and stuff, but also watching YouTube, right? So, I don't know, I just like, I'm very interested in what I set out to read this month for myself, but also I've just been interested in other things a little bit more, and I mean, that's just kind of how it goes sometimes, right? So, yeah, but first of all, let's look at our watch list here. So, this month I've watched Shogun, which is amazing. I will leave my thoughts on Shogun for the end of the month. So in about 10 days, I'll talk about it. But in general, I really like the story. I think they did an amazing job with the casting, with the like production value of the show. And also the story is quite good. And I don't think it's supposed to be, but me and my roommate find it really funny when there's like cultural differences and situations where like no one understands each other. Those are quite humorous to us, but maybe, you know, to your average American, then might not be. And I like I guess it's authenticity, that would be the word, for the fact that most of it happens in Japanese and you have to read subtitles to understand it. Like, I think that is quite good. And I really like the story, and I really like Mariko and Fuji and the Empress, or whatever her name is, like the Taiko's wife. I like the female characters a lot. I like John Blackthorne, and I like Toranaga, you know, Hiroyuki Sanada. Everything about Shogun is awesome, right? So, yeah, then I watched Dune 2, and I watched it twice. And it is a phenomenal, amazing, awesome movie. The first time I watched it with my roommates, and then the second time I watched it with my dad and my mom when I went to visit them for spring break. And it really is an amazing movie. It's so awesome. The ending is like the last couple scenes are amazing. I think that the way it ends, even though I think it is accurate to the book, is kind of like not satisfying. But also, I feel like Dune Messiah is definitely going to be made. I think Denis Villeneuve has already said so. But, like, I wonder if it's going to pick up immediately after this movie, the same way that Part 2 picked up immediately after Part 1, or if it's going to have, like, a little bit of a time skip, and then we'll have, like, a flashback to it, to, like, the ending of this movie. But Dune 2 is awesome. I recommend everyone watches it. Javier Bardem's Stilgar is hilarious. Every time he's just like, oh, the Lisan al-Gaib, everything he does is fucking golden. I think that shit is hilarious. Then I watched Entre Vías, or I think it's called On the Wrong Side of the Tracks in English. It's a Spanish drama show, and it's very good. This season was less good than the first two, but it is quite enjoyable to watch. So I liked it. Then I watched Alien, the first movie. This is the first time I've ever seen it. And, well, I found it quite boring. Like, I understand why people in the 80s liked it. And I understand how it's, like, meaningful to, like, modern sci-fi movies. But it is a pretty bad movie, in my opinion. Like, the monster barely shows up. You know, the alien barely shows up. Sigourney Weaver's character is, like, good, but like barely a character. And like the world building is kind of weak. And whenever I've thought about Alien before, I've seen a lot of people mention, you know, there's a lot of like psychosexual things in the Alien movie. It has this, it has that. It's very much like a very special thing. And I watched the movie and I was like, none of that exists. None of those things that I've heard about this movie are there. Or if they are, they're kind of like the same way that Christianity is in like Evangelion, which is like, oh, that looked cool, so we made it that way. and it has no meaning, but people that watched it tried to make it have, some sort of value, right? And so I think that Alien is like you should watch it once, but it's not gonna be all that good. And it's kind of weird because like the Star Wars movies are definitely like good stories regardless. And I can't say the same thing about Alien. However, I can say the same about like Blade Runner, although Blade Runner is significantly like younger than Alien and stuff like that. So I don't know. I guess I just wasn't in the mood for the movie, and so that's why I don't like it. We watched Prometheus right afterwards, and it was hilarious. It was like exactly the same movie, just better looking. It had a little bit more world building to it, I think, and it was quite like I liked watching it a lot more, which is interesting because the first time I watched it, I didn't like it. I thought it was really boring. But at this point, I think it's quite good. But since I watched Alien and then Prometheus, I literally saw like, oh, this is beat for beat the same thing, except for like a little bit of world building at the beginning, a little bit of like additional characters here and there, and then the story is basically the same as Alien, right? Which is not necessarily a problem. Like Star Wars repeats itself a bunch, and I don't necessarily have a problem with that either, right? So it's not really a complaint. It's more like a observation that makes it clear that the story is lesser than it really could be, right? And then it is what it is. It's not like, oh, it sucks because it's a copy of itself. It's just maybe it shouldn't be, right? So that's my thoughts on that. Then I watched the first episode of this Netflix show called Bandidos. I didn't really like it too much. It's a little bit like Money Heist meets National Treasure. Is that what the Nicolas Cage movies are called? Yeah, I think so. But the character work was bad because they tried to be really hip and modern, and I didn't like it because it didn't feel realistic, if that makes sense. It was very bombastic without being enjoyable, which is a bad combination. Then I watched the first episode of Signal. This is a German Netflix show about aliens. I thought it took too long to get anywhere, so I stopped watching it. And my mom and my dad thought the same thing about this. Then I watched The Creator. This was a great movie. However, it's just like, what if iRobot had like human resistance fight attached to it? Also, it felt very like, Zenyatta, I think that's his name, from Overwatch. It had like this, like, what if we made the Overwatch world, but gave it like an iRobot, like, feeling story? And it was, it didn't feel very original, but it was a very good movie. Like, I enjoyed watching it, but the whole time I was like, oh, these are just the robots from Overwatch. And it was a really distracting thought, right? But the movie was good. Then I watched Abyss. This is a Scandinavian, I think it was Swedish, movie, like natural disaster movie. It was quite good. I enjoyed it. Then I watched the first half of Spaceman. This is the Adam Sandler movie. I did not like it. I thought it was weird. Also, I don't like spiders, and the alien in that is like a weird, creepy spider thing, and it was really disgusting to look at, so I didn't like it. Then I watched 21 Bridges. This was the second to last movie that the Black Panther actor Chadwick Boseman was in. It was really great. I thought it was a wonderful movie. It was really enjoyable. And it had like a really satisfying, sad end to it, which was good. And then finally, I watched Unthinkable, and I didn't like the ending, but the kind of psychological aspect of it was very, very good. So, yeah, that's what I've been watching. It doesn't seem like that much now that I'm mentioning it out loud, but I feel like I watched a lot of stuff this month. So, yeah, maybe it's just I took too long to watch certain things compared to how I usually would, so maybe that's why it felt so long. I'm not really sure. But that's it for the watch list. In terms of what I've been reading, I read Blue Lock 11, which is great. I'm happy that I'm finally out of what I read last year, or the year before. I think it was in 2022. I read all of the first 10 issues, the first 10 volumes, sorry, of Blue Lock, and then a few chapters of volume 11 because I was reviewing the series at that point. I'm happy to have gone past that, and I'm very excited to see where we go next. Then I read Sora and the Monster House Volume 2. This is a phenomenal story. I really hope that it's popular enough in the US to justify bringing more of this author's works, because I really love Mary Grave by this author, and I hope that it gets brought to the US market, because I think it's a wonderful story that a lot of people would like, but it's just like insanely inaccessible because it's only available in Spanish, Italian, and Japanese, right? I don't think even French people have it. And that's kind of crazy, right? Because France has like the second largest manga market outside of Japan, right? So yeah, then I read the first like 7 issues of Witchblade. Maybe it was the first 6, I can't remember, but I'm really enjoying the story. I love the artwork. Like the Witchblade artwork is like what I imagine comic books should be. Like before I read comic books, the image I had of comic books is what I see now when I read the original Witchblade. And that is both satisfying and annoying in certain ways, because one, I like the art style a lot, but there's some definitely like issues with it. Specifically the fact that I think it's when digital drawing was still like becoming relevant, and so the artist's style is a bit choppy compared to maybe what it should be, but still very, very good. I do want to say though that even though these are very new editions of the complete Witchblade, I've had issues where like the text looks cloudy / blurry, even though everything else on the page looks good. And I don't like that. I think that that was either bad scanning of the original pages or the fact that they didn't bother cleaning it up for the new release. And I think that that's bad. They should fix that for the next printing, right? So yeah, but I've enjoyed myself reading this. I like it a lot. It's kind of ridiculous, but it's really enjoyable either way. So yeah, it's not the best story, but like visually it's amazing, and it has so much Rule of Cool moments that I really love. And then I read Witch Hat Atelier Kitchen number 2. I really enjoyed this one. This one felt a lot more sequential than the first one. Like a lot of the stories happened for more than one chapter, which was good. Then I read the first volume of Star Power, which is right here. And I really enjoyed it, actually. It's kind of like, what if Captain Marvel was a Green Lantern, kind of? Like, it has that kind of feel to it. However, the character is much better than Captain Marvel, at least from the movies, right? Like, I've never read a Captain Marvel comic, but I don't like the Captain Marvel in the MCU movies. And I like their power set, but I don't like the character. And I think that Star Power is a much better version of that. And it's very similar to the few Green Lantern things that I've read. It's like a intergalactic core of people. However, there's only one left. It happens to be this girl called Danica, and it's quite good. I will do a review for it here soon, but I recommend you guys read it. It's really fun and accessible and enjoyable, and it's also an indie comic, so you guys should support it, right? Then I read Drifting Dragons number 15, and I really like this. I thought that this story was great in this volume because it's like a background story for one of the main characters, Captain Gibbs, and I really enjoyed this backstory. However, I felt like there was a problem here where I wasn't sure when the book was taking place, because the book starts with them finishing off Typhon, and if I remember correctly, when they're doing this, they're in a random like village, right? And then they go off to fight Typhon, and then they come back. Or it's like at the village where the guy that gives them money to fix their ship is settled in. And so that means that Katya, Jiro's girlfriend character, should not be around because they live in like a different place, right? However, she shows up at the end, and she and Jiro are talking, and I'm not really sure what how this happened, because there wasn't like a transition from, them being here to them being there again. And I'm not sure if I missed something in an earlier volume, like maybe a lot of the things that we've been experiencing so far have actually been flashbacks, stories that Jiro's telling Katya or not. I don't think so. And so I was really confused at the end of the volume. So hopefully we get clarification on that in the next volume, right? But I don't know, it was kind of odd. And then I read Ogami-san number 2, Ogami-san Can't Keep It In number 2. And well, I liked it a lot more than the first one. So I think I will keep the series for now. I probably won't make it a priority to collect it, but I won't get rid of it just yet because ultimately I did enjoy it quite a bit more. They actually started dating at the end of this second volume, and that's really fast for one of these types of stories. And so I'm curious to see where this is going to go. Maybe it's going to turn into like a teen drama, like, something like Glee, I guess. I was going to say Euphoria, but I think Euphoria is very serious compared to what this would be. So I didn't want to mention that. So I thought Glee was a better option, but maybe not, because Glee is like weird as fuck. So I don't know. But yeah, I think it is going to turn into some sort of like teen drama dealing with relationship instead of just like this like rom-com, like will they, won't they kind of thing, because they will. They have literally become boyfriend, girlfriend at the end of the volume, right? So I'll see how I feel about the next issue or the next volume when I read it. But so far, I don't think that I will dislike it anymore. So I will continue to collect it until that proves to be wrong. Then I read the first volume of Gachi Akuta, and man, that shit is awesome. Like, it is wonderful. It reminds me a lot of Horikoshi's work, which is kind of interesting because this creator, I think it's a woman, is actually worked directly under the guy that did Soul Eater and Fire Force. And so her work should be more similar to theirs, but it reminds me a lot of Horikoshi's Prince and Pauper type story. I can't remember what it was called. It's like a 2-volume story. Oh God, what was it called? I reviewed it on the channel. I can't remember what it's called, but it reminds me of that. It's the story that he did before My Hero Academia for Shonen Jump. And the art style is very grungy in a way that is very neat. Like, I really like it. I think it's really cool. But I'm not sure about the initial setup of the story. Like the story, once it starts, like once we get past the inciting incident, is great. However, the inciting incident feels kind of ridiculous, like not in an enjoyable way, kind of in like this doesn't make any sense way, and that's bad, right? So I don't know. I'll do a first impressions review for that, so we'll talk about it in more detail there. But overall, I really enjoyed it. I thought the artwork was phenomenal. I think that the concept of the story is quite good. I just didn't really like the beginning all that much, right? So yeah, and then finally, I've been reading The Wandering Inn, book 3, which is the first half of volume 3, which covers the first 25 chapters, right? Well, that's not actually true. The way that the chapters are split up in the web novel is kind of odd. I think it's like 30-something chapters that are covered in the third book of the series, but that only covers up to 3.25 of the volume. However, because of the way the timelines are set up, there's like more chapters than that, right? So it's a really confusing setup. I didn't explain that well at all, but what I'm saying is that I'm nearly done with this part of the story, and so a new review will come here soon, and then I think I might jump straight into the next volume. I'm not really sure. I haven't thought about it because the world is really expanding right now, and although I like that, I have liked all of the perspectives given so far, I'm not sure that I want to like invest time into that right now, and so maybe I'll go back to reading something else for a while and then come back. However, I've recently seen that basically the story gets really big up until volume 5 or book 5, and then it kind of closes back in. And so maybe I should stop after book 5 and then come back to it later, right? But maybe I don't want to do that because I might get burnt out, right? So I'm struggling to figure out how to best do this, but The Wandering Inn is wonderful. I have 2 reviews for the first 2 books out already. They're spoiler reviews, so don't watch them if you don't want spoilers. But I recommend the story. You can read it for free online. Just look up The Wandering Inn and you'll find it. And in my opinion, it is like up there in terms of like the great, like expansive, explorative, like fantasy series, you know, like One Piece, like The Wheel of Time, or The Cosmere. The Wandering Inn is up there in terms of that. Although I might like The Wandering Inn more than, you know, Wheel of Time or Brandon Sanderson's work, because I like the characters more. Just, I really love Eren, the main character. I think Ryoka's fun. And I like a lot of the side characters. Especially one of them that I've been introduced to in this book. His name is Lakin. He is a blind guy from Earth. He gets isekai'd into the Wandering Inverse. And he becomes an emperor just by willpower. And there's these scenes that remind me a lot of Perrin Aibara's story in book 5 of The Wheel of Time, when he becomes Lord of the Two Rivers. And that shit is like awesome. Like, I love that type of character development, that kind of like take care of my town kind of vibe. And so I like these characters more than I feel attached to these characters more in a more like honest, like sensible way than I do to other characters in fantasy series, if that makes sense. And so I feel like I like the Wandering Inn more than other series, but that's also maybe incorrect, because it might just be, you know, like recency bias. So I'm not really sure, but I'm really enjoying my time reading this. So I recommend you guys read that as well. So yeah, those are my thoughts on what I've been reading and watching this month. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you guys have been reading and watching this month. Let me know if you watched Dune. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Let me know down below. And thank you guys so much for watching. See you guys later.